UNIFIL forces out of harm's way. It should be done right now, immediately.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday called on the United Nations to pull its peacekeeping forces, a mission called UNIFIL, back from combat areas in Lebanon. The UN peacekeeping mission is facing new pressure as Israeli forces ramp up air and ground operations against Iranian-backed Hezbollah fighters who have fired rockets and artillery into northern Israel for more than a year. Israel has claimed Hezbollah fighters operate close to UNIFIL bases, using the peacekeeping force as human shields. Hezbollah has denied those accusations. The UN has accused Israel of harassing and threatening their forces in recent days. And on Sunday, the world body claimed Israeli tanks had burst through the gates of a UNIFIL base. Netanyahu apologized for the harm done to UNIFIL and said the safest thing for the peacekeeping force was to withdraw. But the potential harm to the international mission has prompted criticism of Israel from some of its allies. At an EU summit last week, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said 2 bases housing Italian soldiers serving with UNIFIL were hit by Israeli fire. Italy has more than 1,000 troops in the 10,000-strong UNIFIL force, making it one of the biggest contributors of personnel. Her government said Meloni spoke to Netanyahu on Sunday, denouncing what she called the, quote, unacceptable Israeli attacks. She was not the only one in Rome to speak up for UNIFIL. Pope Francis, in his Sunday address, asked that the peacekeeping force of the United Nations be respected. Israeli forces are trying to push Hezbollah back from the border. In a video released on Sunday, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant toured villages the army said it had captured. And he vowed Hezbollah would not be allowed to return. Video released by the Israeli army purported to show a captured Hezbollah fighter who had been hiding in an underground tunnel. Israel's operation in Lebanon has exacted a heavy toll. This was the scene of destruction in the southern Lebanese city of Nabatea, following an Israeli strike on Saturday. The operation has displaced more than 1.2 million people, according to Lebanon's government, which says more than 2,100 people have been killed and 10,000 wounded in over a year of fighting. Meanwhile, in Haifa, in northern Israel, air raid sirens early Sunday morning sent residents scurrying toward bomb shelters. Israel's rocket interception system left streaks across the night sky.
Rocket barrages by Iran-backed Lebanese armed group Hezbollah triggered sirens across northern Israel overnight and early Sunday morning. Israel's army said in a statement its forces intercepted the projectiles, while it also intensified its attacks in Lebanon. The Middle East is bracing for further escalation as Iran's foreign minister warned in a social media post on Sunday that, quote, "We have no red lines in defending our people and interests." It follows a report by NBC that Israel may be looking to target Iranian military and energy infrastructure in its potential response to Iran's attack this month. NBC was citing unidentified U.S. officials in its report. Israel's defense minister has said the country will hit Iran back in a lethal, precise and surprising way. According to NBC, the U.S. officials have seen no indication that Israel will target nuclear facilities or carry out assassinations in Iran. It also said Israel has not made final decisions about how and when to act. The report added that U.S. and Israeli officials believed a response could come during the Jewish Yom Kippur holiday. The holiday ended on Saturday with no strike from Israel. Iran's attack on October the 1st was launched in retaliation for Israel's military operations in Gaza and Lebanon and the killings of a string of Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. On Saturday, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bakr Kalibaf visited one of the sites in Lebanon's capital that was hit by Israeli airstrikes. Israel's Thursday attack on Beirut killed at least 22 people and wounded over 100. At a news conference, Kalibaf reaffirmed Iran's commitment to supporting Lebanon, saying it was a message directly from Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Obstetrician Nicholas Baklini works amid the beeps of machines monitoring prematurely born babies in a Beirut hospital. But now he contends with the bursts of bombs falling on his city. And he says he's seen a rise in premature births and infant mortality since hostilities ramped up between Israel and Hezbollah. One reason, he told Reuters, is that a bomb blast has enough concussive force to induce premature labor in mothers even at a distance.
Si tu as un bombardement pas loin,
If you have a bombing not far away and the pressure that comes to where you are, the building, comes to your belly and puts pressure on your belly, your water breaks. When your water breaks, the contractions start. And even if you're in the 5th month, you're going to give birth. So you have premature labors and you have early miscarriages. But that's due to the bombing, not the stress.
600 pregnant women remain in Lebanon, with about 4,000 expected to deliver in the next 3 months. That's according to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in October. Pregnancy can already be fraught with complications, but the war has meant many are also now displaced, without adequate shelter, nutrition, and sanitation. He says he's had mothers coming for deliveries only to have no home to return to after.
tu l'accouches.
You deliver her, and then the next day you come and you say, Madame, we have to leave because there are so many women who want to give birth. We need the bed. She says to you, I don't have a house anymore, but I told you, doctor, I prefer to sleep another night in the hospital.
Access to safe antenatal, postnatal, and pediatric care has also become increasingly difficult. The Lebanese government says the Israeli campaign has forced about 1.2 million people from their homes since the conflict intensified in September.
China's military launched a new round of war games near Taiwan on Monday, drawing condemnation from the governments in Taipei and the U.S. Chinese state media reported that China's Coast Guard circled Taiwan and staged rare operations of, quote, law enforcement patrols close to Taiwan's offshore islands. The Chinese military's Eastern Theater Command said the drills were taking place in the Taiwan Strait and 9 areas around the island. The command also said the drills were a, quote, stern warning to the separatist acts of Taiwan Independence Forces and did not say when they would end. Taiwan's Defense Ministry and Coast Guard said Monday that both agencies had dispatched their own forces. Fighter jets were seen taking off and landing at Taiwan's Hsinchu Air Base Monday morning. And Taiwan's Coast Guard released this video said to show one of its ships broadcasting a message asking a Chinese Coast Guard vessel to leave its waters. A Taiwan security source said there were no signs so far of any missile launches. Democratically governed Taiwan, which China views as its own territory, had been on alert for more war games since last week's National Day speech by President Lai Ching-te. Lai's address was condemned by Beijing after he said China had no right to represent Taiwan, even as he offered to cooperate with Beijing. China's Eastern Theater Command released this propaganda video Monday, which showed a cartoon caricature of Lai with pointed ears like a devil. Taiwanese officials said Lai's National Security Council convened on Monday to discuss the situation. The Council's Secretary General, Joseph Wu, said that Taiwan would not escalate the conflict.
We also need to stay calm and confident to prevail in the struggle between democracy and authoritarianism. We will stay moderate and responsible and work hard to maintain the cross-strait status quo to help maintain peace and stability in the region.
A senior Taiwan security official speaking to Reuters on condition of anonymity said they believe China was practicing blockading Taiwanese ports and international shipping lanes, as well as repelling the arrival of foreign forces. In Washington, officials from the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden said there was no justification for the drills and that they were continuing to monitor them.
Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris released a letter from her doctor on Saturday, pronouncing her to be in good health and fit for the Oval Office. According to a Harris aide, the move was made to draw attention to Republican nominee Donald Trump's refusal to release his medical report.
And it's just a further example of his lack of transparency.
Harris spoke to reporters before boarding a plane to North Carolina.
And it is clear to me that he and his team do not want the American people to really see what it is that he is doing and whether or not he actually is fit to do the job of being President of the United States.
In a memo distributed by the White House, Harris's doctor said her last physical exam in April was unremarkable and that she maintains an active lifestyle and a healthy diet. It noted she suffers from seasonal allergies and sporadic hives which have been well managed with medications and antihistamine treatment. In a statement, Trump's campaign communications director said that Trump has voluntarily released updates from his personal physician, as well as detailed reports from the medical doctor who treated him after the first assassination attempt. In 2018, when Trump was in office, a White House doctor said he was in overall excellent health, but needed to lose weight and start a daily exercise routine. The Harris campaign is eager to highlight the former president's age of 78, since he became the oldest candidate after 81-year-old President Joe Biden stepped aside from the race. The campaign hopes contrasting Harris's comparative youth and mental acuity with Trump's advanced age and tendency to meander will convince undecided voters that she is more fit for office.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday toured the storm-shattered parts of St. Petersburg, Florida, meeting with survivors and surveying the damage caused by Hurricane Milton last week. Milton is being blamed for 17 deaths and was the second powerful storm to batter the low-lying coastal state in 2 weeks.
All those folks who not only lost their homes, but more importantly, those folks who lost their lives, lost family members, lost all their personal belongings. Entire neighborhoods were flooded, and millions were without power.
Everything's gone. Only thing standing is the main part of the restaurant, the first floor of the packing house, and the flagpole.
Matt Schorner owns Al's Family Farm restaurant in Fort Pierce on Florida's Atlantic coast, just across the peninsula from where Milton made landfall. Schorner's grandfather Al founded a citrus farm here 46 years ago. Most of the historic red barn that houses the eatery is still standing, but nearly everything else of the citrus business was taken by tornadoes that swept in with Hurricane Milton.
We don't know what's next, but we're taking it one day at a time.
Body cam footage showed officers rescuing people and pets trapped in their homes in Florida's Hillsborough County after Hurricane Milton brought widespread flooding. Biden said that such disasters were calls for unity.
It's in moments like this we come together to take care of each other, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans.
That was the political message carried by Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate for the White House, as she campaigned on Sunday in North Carolina, a state slammed by Hurricane Helene 2 weeks ago.
And these hurricanes have revealed heroes around all of us. Heroes who do not ask the injured or stranded, whether they are a Republican or a Democrat, but who simply ask, "Are you okay?"
Harris castigated those who spread misinformation ahead of and immediately after the storm. Her Republican challenger, former President Donald Trump, is among those who amplified falsehoods in the form of conspiracy theories.
In particular, with respect to North Carolina, they've let those people suffer unjustly.
Among them, the unfounded claim that the Biden administration had diverted funds meant for disaster relief to help house illegal immigrants.
Right now, fellow Americans are experiencing some of the most difficult moments in their lives. Yet instead of offering hope, there are those who are channeling people's tragedies and sorrows into grievance and hatred.
The wave of misinformation saw at least 3 congressional Republicans condemn conspiracy theories repeated by fellow members of their party.
China pledged on Saturday to significantly increase debt in a push to revive its sputtering economy. But it left investors guessing on the overall size of the stimulus package, a vital detail to gauge the longevity of its recent stock market rally. At a news conference, Finance Minister Lan Fo-an announced a series of measures, including helping local governments tackle their debt problems by issuing bonds. The ministry also said it would replenish state banks' capital, support the property market, and offer subsidies to people with low incomes. These are all steps investors have been urging Beijing to take as the world's second-largest economy struggles to overcome deflationary pressures and lift consumer confidence amid a sharp property market downturn. But Lan's omission of a dollar figure for the package is set to prolong investors' nervous wait for a clearer policy roadmap. That's not going to come until the next meeting of China's rubber-stamped legislature, which approves extra debt issuance. A date for the meeting has yet to be announced, but it's expected in the coming weeks. A wide range of economic data in recent months has missed forecasts. It's raised concerns among economists and investors that the government's roughly 5% growth target this year was at risk, and that a longer-term structural slowdown could be in play. Data for September, to be released over the coming week, is expected to show further weakness. though Beijing leaders pledged last month to use necessary fiscal spending to meet the 2024 target. Policymakers also rolled out aggressive stimulus measures that pushed Chinese stocks to two-year highs before retreating as nerves set in given the absence of further policy details from officials.
Virgin Australia has recorded its second consecutive annual profit. The airline said Monday it had seen a 6.8% rise in year-on-year revenue. The results put it in a stronger financial position as it looks to pursue an eventual initial public offering. It also comes just 2 weeks after Qatar Airways said it would buy a 25% stake in Australia's number 2 carrier. The airline was bought by US private equity firm Bain Capital after it collapsed into voluntary administration 4 years ago. It returned to profit for the first time in 11 years last year. Virgin Australia did not publish after-tax profit figures, but it reported underlying earnings before interest and tax of $350 million for the financial year ended June 30th. That's up 18.2% over last year's result. In contrast, rival Qantas in August reported a 16% drop in annual underlying earnings before tax. It blamed lower fares, higher spending on customers, and weaker freight revenue.
Boeing plans to cut 17,000 jobs, or 10% of its global workforce, and record $5 billion in losses in the third quarter, as the U.S. plane maker continues to spiral during a month-long strike. In a message to employees, Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg said downsizing was necessary to align with its financial reality.
Strike! Strike! Strike!
It comes after production of the 737 MAX, 767, and 777 jets halted due to the ongoing strike by 33,000 U.S. West Coast workers. Reaching a deal to end the work stoppage is critical for Boeing. On Wednesday, it filed an unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board, accusing the Machinists Union of failing to bargain in good faith. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, which represents striking workers, described Boeing's claims as groundless. Ratings agency S&P estimated the strike is costing Boeing $1 billion a month, and it risks losing its prized investment-grade credit rating. Boeing also notified customers that it expects first delivery of its 777X to be in 2026 due to challenges in development, the flight test pause, and the work stoppage. Even before the strike began on September 13th, the company was burning cash as it struggled to recover from a January mid-air panel blowout on a new plane that exposed weak safety protocols and spurred U.S. regulators to curb its production. On Friday, Boeing faced a Texas court hearing with a judge who will decide whether to accept the plane maker's offer to plead guilty to fraud under a deal with the Justice Department. Boeing has agreed to pay up to a $487.2 million fine, spend at least $455 million on improving safety, and face 3 years of court-supervised probation and independent oversight.
We're now down to 3 Raptor engines. We can see those chopsticks now in the air. At the launch tower. What an incredible view!
Are you kidding me? What we just saw, that looked like magic. Wow.
Damn, your view must have been insane.
I think it's a game changer. Japan is still the only country to have suffered atomic bombings. Nuclear power is incredibly beneficial to the world, but we must take care not to misuse it. I hope this Nobel Peace Prize becomes an opportunity for people around the world to think about the various aspects of this issue.
考えるきっかけになってほしいなというふうに思ってます。
ノーベル平和賞に選ばれたっていうのは
I think it's a great honor for them to have been chosen for the Nobel Peace Prize. As a student of education myself, I've recently become aware of the importance of achieving peace through education. So in those terms too, I think it's something that will have a big impact, and I'm very happy.
As a transgender Catholic, I really wanted to share my story with Pope Francis, and because he's so pastoral, and let him know, really illustrate that our stories are all different and give him another perspective to consider when the church is talking about transgender people and gender. He was very pastoral, very interested in my story, and it was just a very welcoming atmosphere, and I felt that he wanted to hear everything I had to say.